There are, of course, two poles in American, Western, evangelical worship design, liturgical design. There's lights and lasers and smells and bells. There's the big show and the quiet cathedral. Now, of course, most churches exist on a continuum somewhere between the two, but those two opposite extremes have deeply held beliefs about how worship should be and how worship should go and how our liturgy should matter. Of course, the lights and lasers guys are talking about cultural resonance and, it's a sin to bore people with the good news, and, we got to excite people, and Jesus' own ministry was attractional in a sense that people followed him wherever they went. He wowed them, he confused them, And then, of course, the smells and bells guys, the quiet, sacred solitude guys are saying the lights and lasers are fraudulent. What we really need to do is get back to deep, interior, contemplative recognition of the presence of God in corporate worship. Both are right, to my way of thinking, and both are wrong. We ought to have a lover's quarrel with both extremes, recognizing that actually it is important to reach people we don't already have, and it is also important to grow deeply the people God brings into our churches. But how do we navigate that tension, and what do we want to do? Well, the truth is, you make it up. In the famous words of St. Augustine, you love God and you do what you will. You trust that your true affection for God pleases God. And you trust that the desires inside of your heart to shadow God, to emulate God, and all that He does in you and with you and through you and for you, that desire is itself purified by your love for God. Because I'm not sure that there's a truly wrong or truly sinful way, apart from actual blatant biblically prohibited sin, but I'm not sure that there's a sinful way to worship God. And a lot of times we have huge fights over our preferences in worship, forgetting that more important than our preference is the ethic that God requires our worship. And so we should worship Him in whatever ways feel appropriate to us and to those people designing services. All that to say, we got to move beyond smells and bells and lights and lights and lasers. If you're a lights and lasers kind of place, maybe there's something more than fog machines and quick changes. I would love to see some of the lights and lasers places look more like the Blue Man Group, or like Stomp, or like Komodo, which is a Japanese drumming troupe. There's got to be ways for that to be more interactive, more participatory, less like a Michael McDonald concert, less like something Paul McCartney would do for a charity, and more something that catalyzed people to take action in the moment and think differently and think critically about the world in which they live. That's still exciting. For the smells and bells guys, I think there's got to be more room for them than just doing the same things. Even though I know that repetition of the same practices has its own spiritual merit, I still think that there is, at some level, a kind of laziness there. And there are new ways of being contemplative that are often underutilized by those traditional faiths. Now, of course, you're going to listen to all that and take it with a grain of salt, because clearly, a guy covered in tattoos probably isn't going to fit real well in most smells and bells places. I get all that, but the point that I'm trying to make is that there's merit at either end, but not only merit. And so we've got to find our own way forward with a little